Trends in media and tech can tell you a lot. They can also get you some inkling into what you should expect in the future, at least from most of these tech and entertainment companies. And most of the time, the industry becomes all about exploiting those trends or those ongoing trends until they absolutely run the ship into the ground. And even then, they'll continue to invest in these trends until it fades away to oblivion. It just always happens. But there are some trends that are easily identified amongst many others that are out there, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. But let's take a look at these trends with a little bit of a data dive done by our friends over at Variety's intelligence platform. I think you'll agree this is kind of a fun exercise. Here we go. Today's story focuses on the 3 trends in media that are defined by our friends again at VIP. And of course, in my opinion, they're not wrong. Now, as I mentioned, there are other trends out there that are going on at the same time and will continue to go on for quite some time. But we're going to focus more on these 3. And in the future, I promise, we'll get around to talking about these other trends that are kind of layered and how they're being presented in other, quadrants, other places. And there's the same story, just being framed differently. But believe me, we'll get there a little ways down the road. Today, we're just going to cover what we're dealing with here, which are these 3 trends defined by Variety. While 2021 wasn't a normal year by any means, it was still a year of improvement following the devastation of 2020. No argument there. It was a rough year. Businesses and economies continue dealing with the aftershocks of COVID, including 2 variants that threatened the delay recovery. And of course they did. The biggest tech companies saw their valuations swell again in 2021. However, some media and tech companies like Disney, Netflix, and Roku, and Comcast, saw their valuations after their stocks failed to see 2020-like gains. And that's one of the big problems with playing the subscriber numbers, right? Those numbers can be easily fluctuated. They can be easily misrepresented. And investors, if they get a little hinky or they feel something hinky in the background, it's all because of how these services were presented from the very beginning. Taking a look at these charts, you can see Apple here dominates as far as market cap. Then you have Alphabet, Amazon, Meta, Disney, Comcast, Netflix, AT&T, Sony, Charter, and Fox, which is interesting. Now again, AT&T is going to get mostly out of this business. We'll see how all that works out when the Warner Media Discovery thing is finally finalized, but that's a little down the road. Many of us saw a glimmer of hope at the start of 2022. Q4 earnings season was a positive sign that businesses were beginning to see meaningful progress across their major segments. And again, Disney saw growth in their major segments, but some of those segments got buried somewhere along the way. And again, they really still pushed that streaming thing too far out in front. Again, in my opinion. However, recent events have thrown another set of macroeconomic challenges in the way of recovery. Well, of course, they're going to start talking about the geopolitical struggles that are happening right now because, let's see, bear and squirrel are still at each other, right? And you're going to see those things happen probably in a growing way and not a reduced way in the near future. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I believe that's probably the case. When you pair that with sky-high inflation in the US and an ongoing supply chain disruption, there are some very real headwinds in the year to come. While it is extremely hard to predict what the world would look like, here are some of the biggest media and tech themes to keep an eye on in 2022, and here we go. Number 1. Streaming/content wars. And as you can see here from the charts, you have US-based major subscription services that start with Netflix, then Disney. Now, Disney is this big, according to this data, because they've combined Disney Plus with Hulu and ESPN Plus, which, okay. Paramount, of course, is in 3rd place, followed by Discovery and Lionsgate. Now, Discovery is about to pair itself with HBO Max. They are obviously reporting a different category or a different metric, and they're essentially going to have a big growth bump either way. Discovery, Warner, big growth bump. We'll have some more numbers here soon, and there's a very real chance, if not the likelihood, that Discovery Warner will leapfrog over Paramount in a way that most people weren't expecting, putting it firmly into third place as far as the reported pay subs. But again, when it comes to Discovery, you have paid subs and unpaid subs, and we're going to get around to that here in a moment. But of course, after HBO Max, you have Peacock, which again has a split sub base, okay, as does, well, Prime Video, which you only get if you actually have Prime account. Now, the interesting thing about the Prime Video service is they have, well, several hundred million people utilize that on a regular basis. In fact, they report here that over 200 million plus Prime members streamed at least a movie or television show in 2021. That gives you an idea of how much bigger they are than probably Netflix and any of these other guys, but it doesn't really matter. It's not their core business, and so everybody kind of dismisses it. I don't blame them. Streaming services that haven't reported any metric as far as their reach, of course, would be Apple TV Plus, which they always say they have decent subscriber numbers. Estimations put it at about 40 million. But it looks like things picked up for the most part for the streaming players at the end of 2021, except for Netflix. As the streaming wars evolve, the competition will reach new heights, and you'll have new information and metrics to make your decision upon as to who's actually winning. But as far as what they're spending, this is bananas. First of all, you can see the progression here by this bar guide that says starting in 2020, you see the spending towards content for these major media and tech companies, where it's at. You see reaching 15 billion in 20, at least on the high end for Netflix. Disney following in that $8 billion category. We get to 2021. You see we're starting to approach for Netflix about $20 billion. You have Disney that is crossing the $10 billion threshold to about 11. You see in 2022, same thing. You continue to see this growth, this acceleration into the year 2025 of content spending. Now, Disney, just as an aside here and outside of these numbers, Disney is actually one of those companies that's telling you they're going to be in that profitability for streaming when they get to the year 2025. They're going to be spending nearly $20 billion in content development. That's insane. So in order to spend that much money and yet see profitability, they are seeing a ramped up growth. From where? They've already reached their maturity at this point, at least as far as some analysts are concerned. And when I'm looking at it, I'm like, if they aren't pulling the shenanigans that they do with Hulu, which they did in the last quarter, they can't really show a whole lot of subscriber growth like this going forward. So where's that going to come from? We'll get there in a minute. In 2022, companies will look to diversify their streaming revenue streams. Aha! That's where it'll show up. We'll get there. With continued experimentation such as free ad-supported models, which is likely, especially for Disney, and simultaneously releasing theater and streaming platform for films, which I think all of them are going to continue to experiment with. Not to mention massive investments in content will persist this year. High quality and quantity will be the most important aspect in the battle for subscribers, and all the major services will be pouring money into their content as a result. Then we get to number 2. Mergers and acquisitions. Mergers and acquisitions are already on the rise. You can see the details starting with 2017 going through 2021. They're likely to accelerate into 2022, and we'll talk about that in a moment. The intense competition in the media and tech sectors have sparked a flurry of M&A. M&A ramped up across the board, and 2022 is gearing up to be just as action-packed. No arguments from me. All the recent consolidation in the space has been extremely strategic and calculated. That's true for the most part, except Disney's acquisition of Fox a couple of years ago was probably not the best executed thing I've ever seen. I'll set that aside for now. Just 2 months into 2022, I think we talked about this, the rumor mill hasn't stopped spinning, and some recent speculation suggests we could see more mega deals in the near term, and I do see that happening. I don't see Disney as a major player there because of the amount of debt they're carrying and the fact that they are borderline when it comes to their rating, so we'll see. Number 3, this is the third tech trend, folks. It is Web3, of course, Metaverse and NFTs. Those are all the same trend. Well, actually, those are 3 different trends, but we'll let them consolidate. It's fine. Technology continues to advance at a rapid pace, and the biggest trends in 2021 will carry over into 2022. No kidding. And you can see the growth for monthly total NFT sales, which we covered before. So this is kind of more a combination of data from another place that we've seen already. But you can see from the various different platforms that you can purchase NFTs on using the various cryptocurrencies and even Visa, MasterCard, by the way, with one of these services. You saw a spike in August and then a slow trend downward September through December, and now in January it's jumped back up. The question is that going to continue? And we'll get to that at the end of the video. But NFT sales totaled $25 billion for 2021 compared to just $95 million in the prior year. That's how big a jump was made. That's incredible. 95 million with an M to 25 billion with a B in 1 year. That's insane. Viacom and Fox have created a collectible NFT with some of their most beloved IPs, such as The Masked Singer and SpongeBob SquarePants. Organizationally, you'll see the NBA and the WWE also tapping into the growing NFT business, and they've already done that. Then, of course, we talk about the Metaverse, which again, they think these are 3 different things. They're really not, but all right. The Metaverse, where there are still some conflicting ideas about what the Metaverse actually is. Everybody wants in. Well, the problem is that it's still not completely fleshed out, and they acknowledge Facebook changed their name for it. The Metaverse is a virtual space, maybe, or a augmented reality space, or both. In fact, I would argue that it would be both, to be honest with you. And we are a decade away from being anywhere close to the Metaverse as you would imagine it in something like Ready Player One or something similar, or even like The Matrix, right? I really don't see the Metaverse being something. Maybe you do, and we'll get to that at the end of the video, but there's a lot of unknown things out there, and when it comes to Web 3.0, that's actually closer than you think. That's actually probably closer than the Metaverse, because without Web 3, you probably can't have the Metaverse, at least not in the kind of way that's being imagined right now. So there is still so much that's unknown, but media and tech industries have shown resilience in the face of uncertainty. Innovation will be the most important path forward. Well, with all this M&A, mergers and acquisitions, you likely aren't going to get the kind of innovation that you absolutely need, because you're buying up competition and nobody's going to be able to benefit from somebody's unique idea, or at least only one company will, and that'll be a really big problem. Again, this is the problem with the stuff I touch on with monopolistic practices and why antitrust laws are so important. But I'll keep going. The companies that position themselves the best in the high growth environment by taking advantages of new challenges will see the most success. Well, that's a statement that goes without saying, to be honest with you. And while we're done with the article, maybe we're not done talking about this. I have a strong feeling that these trends, while they are important in this current year, they ultimately won't prove as important as what's going to happen when it comes to, well, our interaction with technology and media going forward. I think you're going to see a lot of ad-supported platforms. I think you're going to see a massive shift in some of the investment in these segments by these megacorps, because I think they're going to realize that it's just not quite worth destroying their other business segments. But hey, just my opinion. So enough of my rambling for now. I need to ask you, what do you think? Do you think that these trends are accurately identified? I do. What do you think? Do you think that they picked out some good choices? Well, I think that's fair. I really do. Is there going to be a shift in the streaming models in the near future? And again, I told you my thoughts. I think they have to. And I think they're going to take a cue off of what happens with Discovery Plus, and they're probably paying attention to what Peacock has been doing. And there are a couple of revenue streams there, not just one. There are 2 opportunities there. And of course, is there going to be a shift or a ramp back up in the total sales for NFTs? And that's a big question. I think so. I think you're going to see NFTs ramp back up. I think that barring any more geopolitical weirdness with that, I think you'll see more NFTs in the future. And finally, is the metaverse going to be a thing in the next 5 years? Or is it still a long way out? Now, your mileage is going to vary on that question. It might be the one that's the most interesting, to be honest, at least from my perspective. So, just let me know. Use the comment section down below. Answer any of those questions. Give me your thoughts on anything else in this video. I see these trends being interesting. I think that they're right on the mark, but I think they're very short-sighted. And again, we have more video content coming along these lines in the future, so do pay close attention to your notifications so you don't miss anything. Obviously, I'm going to tell you to support other independent creators here on the platform because they absolutely need it. One of the ways that you grow as a channel is to get recommended. You cannot do that without making an impact on the algorithm in a way that YouTube pays attention, or at least the AI does. And again, that's something else we didn't get to in this particular video, but it's coming. So do hit the like button, do hit the subscribe button, do make a comment on their videos, and do share out the content. That is one of the ways that you can help an independent creator make some form of an impact and grow, especially if you appreciate the content that they're producing. And of course, if you want to do that for yours truly, I won't object at all. And finally, I'll end the video the same way I always do. Be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. And until next time, bye.
Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts.
Yay!
Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.